and welcome to this quick tour about filters in ProcessMind. So let's dive into a little bit of the filters that we can use in ProcessMind. I can divide them in two different areas, well maybe three. The first one is all the charts and all the components that you have on your dashboard and the interactions on them. So all the components by default, they can also act as filters. So the filter will automatically set based on the data elements that are underneath attached to that area of that chart. So for instance, I have here a chart over time. If I select something over here and hit the filter button, a filter will be added here on the right hand side. And automatically it knows it's a time related issue. So if I click on the filter, it will give me actually a time map where I can set the beginning and end of the time or adjust it to monthly or weekly or whatsoever. So filters are automatically created based on filters that I set in my charts wherever I are. Same for instance here with the activities. If I select a couple of activities and I select the filter bar, a new activity filter will be added, selecting that specific activity that I have set there. So very basic. The second area is filters on charts. So if you want to have very specific process filters, zooming into the model here, right? For instance, I can filter things like the information that is flowing, in this case from order to call off order. So when I select it, it will be highlighted and dotted, and there is a filter button here as well. In that filter button, I will have separate options. For instance, I can filter all the processes that follow this route by directly followed by filter, or indirectly followed by. That means that it doesn't need to be in this order, but eventually it needs to go from order to call off order. Not directly followed by, which is the negative version of it, or never followed by, so it never occurs in this entire data set. So these kind of options can be set, and again, of course, once I select one of them, they will be added here to the right hand side where I can also change them as well. The same can be done with activities, for instance. So I have here delivery reminder. If I select that one, I can hit filters as well, where I have the option to filter the case with this activity. So including all the activities that have, or including all the case that has this activity in there, or actually without that activity. Very easy to use. So these are the things I can do from the process. The other ones were, as I mentioned before, from out of the charts. But if they are not represented here, that doesn't mean I cannot filter on the data. Because here on the right hand side, on the filter side, I have a plus button where I can add filters myself as well. I can add another activity filter if I want to, or for instance a follow by filter that I already have here as well, and things like variation filter. And the variation filter is a very specific one as well, because that one represents the different variations that occur in the process. So automatically it bundles more or less the cases that have the same behavior related to the activities and the flow. And I can actually also see that by selecting the one, and on the right hand side it gives me a representation of that case, how it's been followed. So it also gives me a more easy way to access the variations by giving me the number of events, the number of activities, it's an open or a closed case, and I can go through every one of them. On the left hand side, I can actually see where the activity variation is coming from if I have multiple data sets attached to one dashboard, but in this case I only have one. Maybe good to mention as well, I can do different things in every filter, because every filter has more or less the same kind of icons and buttons. I can say hide the selection, so if I have a very long list and I don't want to see all the selections that are already made, I can hide them from the selection. I can say, hey, clear the selections, which obviously clears the selection. Or I can say include this selection in my filter or exclude it, which is a little bit the same with activities. Does it occur in my entire process or does not occur in my process, which is the exclude version, right? Some long lists also have a search button. So if I'm searching for an activity, for instance, like inquiry, I can just the first two letters and I select it. But the other buttons here are here represented as well. And since activity was related to activity, I have here the exclude and include as well, but also cases without the selected activity or any of the selected activities. So there are multiple options how you can filter, for instance, on activities here. All right, okay, I covered now already activity, the follow by filter, the period selector, the variation filter, the case ID. which can be very specific on zooming into a couple of cases, or the 4i SOD control. This is a very powerful as well, where I can select which activities, for instance, if I have an inquiry and an invoice, and that can never be done by the same person, then these kind of filters can be set, like how many filters are occurring to this rule, and I can of course inverse it as well, saying, hey, this should never occur, right? By having the cases with the 4i approval or all the cases without the 4i principal approval. These are the specific ones. Then we have, of course, also attributes that are normally just out of the data set itself, like cost or other values that are there, or data specific ones. So again, you can specific one here from the data set itself or from the other data set. That's why they are colored orange, because the orange color is representing now the first data set here. So if I have, for instance, a Boolean called automated, I can say, hey, I want to have all the cases that have the 0 and then only filter on the automated cases or the not automated cases in this case. Once I've set actually filters, this is all locally stored for my desktop and my view as well. But if I want to save them because I want to use them over other data sets or other views or dashboards, I can actually save all these filters and the filter settings. How I do that is by clicking here to load and save a filter set, and I can give it simply a name, saying my first filter set, for instance, and just hitting the save button. It gives me a very quick overview as well, what has been saved here and what kind of filters has been set here. And once I now clean all these filters by, for instance, clicking the remove filter buttons, I have removed all my filters from the data set, but they're still stored in my list. So if I want to now very quickly go to all the filters that I just added, I can just open it here, add it here, and you can see all these filter sets are now represented and put back into the system. A very nice way of actually excluding or including filters very quickly as well. Every filter has here a disable version that doesn't remove the entire filter, but it just disables it for a second. So you can very quickly see what's the difference between the before and the after state once I added a certain filter. I can also do that on a global level, by the way. So these filters can be done all on the individual filter set. If I want to say, hey, I just want to remove all the filter all at once or disable them, I can just hit that button here over here, and now all my filters are disabled to see, hey, did I filter something out by accident, yes or no? Very powerful. And again, I can also manage these kind of load and data sets by just removing or adding new ones or updating the existing one if I have to. So that's about saving the filters. If I want to make this more a fixed state, saying, hey, I have a particular error that I found with the filter settings that I did, I can also bookmark them. There's a different topic on bookmarking, but I just want to mention it now. If I now add a bookmark, now actually this view of this data set, including all my settings and my filters, are being stored. And I can show you that by removing actually these filters, going to my bookmark and opening it now, and now I have all my filter settings there as well, even though if I save them in my filter list, yes or no. So a very powerful way of managing your filters and managing across data sets. Of course, the bookmarks only save them in combination with the filters, so they're always stored with the process. And the lists that you have here are not stored with the process, so you can reuse them over other data sets or other processes as well. Again, a very powerful way of doing so. So this was a very quick way of looking at some of the filters, what you can do with that, how they work, how you can manage them. I hope you enjoyed it, and let's look forward to the next one.